KERA just existed for the electric company and Sesame Street for him, and that was about it, which is fine. Really quickly, I do want to mention that we do have about an hour and a half for the silent auction bids. If you haven't been by the Irving Lecture Hall yet, take a look at the items. There are over 300 items up for auction, and all the proceeds go to benefit KERA. And how many of you watched Doctor Who for the first time on KERA the first time? You owe them. So please take a look at the fantastic items up for auction. We will be doing the live auction piece of it beginning at 3:30 in the Irving Lecture Hall. Is that our next guest is our featured guest here at WhoFest 4. He is an incredibly generous individual for spending time with us. He has made celery a fantastic fashion accessory, and even in the years where he was away from the show, he is still impacting it, and I can't wait to bring him on the stage, so let's make him feel incredibly welcome and loved. Give a massive WhoFest welcome, Mr. Peter Davison!
Yes, I want to feel loved.
Isn't that what all actors want to do?
Exactly, yeah, you're quite right. This adoration, just doesn't matter what for.
The first time I actually saw your work, it wasn't for Doctor Who, it was for the TV adaptation of a film a book series that I love, All Creatures Great and Small.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about, there's some fans of the series there as well. Talk a little bit about your work on that show, because that show has so much love, even all the decades past after, because it's still one of the greatest adaptations that I thought of the material at the time.
Mm. Well, funny enough, you know, it was really America that made the books, as they were known, All Creatures Great and Small, popular. In Britain, they weren't released as that. I think the first book was called It Shouldn't Happen to a Vet. And they carried on, but over here, the publishers thought that wouldn't sell, so they put the first two books together and called it All Creatures Great and Small. That's America's where they became bestsellers, which of course prompted the BBC to want to make the series. So I hadn't actually, to be honest, really heard of the books before my agent said, you've got to go out for this part of the younger brother. And I remember walking into the BBC offices, and I saw a picture of Christopher Timothy on the desk and thought, oh, he's obviously playing the older brother. So I went in trying to look as much like Christopher Timothy as possible, which wasn't easy. So I remember getting the script, and they said to me, you know, would you read a scene? So I said, fine. And then they said, would you like a cup of coffee? And I said, fine, I'm trying to be very friendly. So they gave me a cup of coffee and they gave me the script. And in the process of balancing the script on my knee and reading the scene and having the cup of coffee, I managed to spill the coffee all over myself. And I'm sure to this day that that's part of the reason I got the part. Because when they saw I saw a couple of hundred people for this part of Tristan. And when they came to decide who they were going to offer it to, I had this idea, they all sat around the table and went, well, who do you think? And someone said, what about the idiot who spilled coffee all over himself? Because it was quite funny, unintentionally. I was going to cover up the fact that I had coffee all over me and the script. Anyway, so I got offered the part. And I remember they then organised a full meeting of the cast. And that's when I realised that actually I was Robert Hardy's younger brother, not Christopher Timothy's. And we all turned up, and I said hello to Robert Hardy and Carol Drinkwater, and everything was going along nicely. And then Christopher Timothy walked in and was introduced to me, and his first words in front of the producer was, too tall, recast. Oh Lord, what if they take any notice of him? Fortunately, they didn't. So we had a fantastic time. I was cast as a BBC newcomer, and I got introduced to the real Tristan, I think, on about day 4 of the filming. And I hadn't noticed until then that if you actually read the book, or the first book, Tristan is described on page 2 or 3 as being short and dark. as indeed the real Tristan obviously had been. He was a bit grey then. So I thought it's completely unsuited for the art. But fortunately for me, Robert Hardy really liked working with me as the two brothers. And so I think I was meant to be in 5 of the first series, and I was in all but 1, so all but the first one. So we spent many years, happy years, 3 years initially, and then we stopped, and I went off and did something else.
Well, did your work on All Creatures, did that give you a leg up in the casting process?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it was helped by the fact that John Nathan Turner worked briefly on All Creatures Great and Small, and he left to produce Doctor Who. And when I finished Doctor Who, I went off, I did a couple of comedy series, and things were going very nicely, and then out of the blue, John Nathan Turner just rang me up one night. I hadn't spoken to him for a year and a half, I think, and I couldn't quite understand why he was ringing me up, and then he just said, he told me that Tom Baker was leaving, and I thought, why is he telling me that? And then he said, how do you feel about being the next Doctor? I mean, and that was the point at which, your life changes forever.
You were part of the first generation who had grown up with Doctor Who as a British mainstay. Did that affect your enthusiasm for the part at that time, or had you been a fan of the show when you originally were on?
Oh, I've been a fan of the show from the first episode that went out, and so I was, as you said, the first person that played the part that had grown up watching it. I never thought about playing the part of the Doctor. I mean, as an actor, I thought it'd be nice to get a couple of lines in it, here and there, but I never joked about being the Doctor. So suddenly to have the actual part offered to me was a bit of a shock. I was intimidated by it because to me, William Hartnell and Patrick Troughton were my doctors, and so to follow in their footsteps was almost more intimidating than the fact that Tom had done it for 7 years.
Well, even so, the first thing one of the first things they have you do as the Doctor is to unravel number 4 scarf. And as a kid, that was just shocking. That was I don't believe it.
Really funny because I really enjoyed doing it. But you know what? I rediscovered. We had this. It was a great idea in the script that he's finding his way around the TARDIS. So he wants to find his way back. So he unravels the scarf in order to find his way back. But what we discovered when we did it, that the woman who had knitted the scarf hadn't knitted it from one continuous roll of wool. So we get sort of 3 yards down the corridor and we'd run out of it. So we stopped. So in the end, we had to tie all the bits together, and I had to hide it behind the scarf and sort of go and look like I was unraveling it, because it wasn't in one piece. I don't know what, she must have made it from 1,000 small short pieces of wool.
There are enough knitters here who are shaking their heads going, I did that through one piece of wool. Where's Hillary? Is Hillary in here? She actually knitted a number 4 scarf.
Well, I wish we'd unwound your scarf.
We do have a mic here for questions. If you guys have a question for Peter, I would love